Integrative Inquiry, Week 10, Introduction to a Trauma-Informed Workplace.
The invitation here is to just notice the body in the chair. Really bring a gentle attention to sensing the feet on the floor if you're able. Pressing in the left foot, the right foot. And noticing the seat in the chair. Just feeling the weight of the body supported by the chair and trusting the chair supporting the body. Then noticing the back, just inviting an upright, alert, yet relaxed back. Perhaps even taking a moment, if you're able, and pressing gently the back into the back of the chair, just sensing that experience. Or moving the back away from the chair and noticing that experience with a gentle, playful curiosity. And then inviting a gentle attention to noticing the hands where they are placed. Perhaps really feeling the palm on the hand, on the thighs, or the hands holding each other. Or perhaps the hands are resting, sensing the air, temperature of the air. And then inviting the eyes to soften, looking down or at this image. So it's as if you're looking but not really seeing, just a soft, tender gaze. Or you can close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. Noticing this body in this chair, in this room. Knowing that at any time during this next 20 minutes together, you can press your feet into the chair, sit firmly on your chair, press your back against the chair, press your hands together, reminding you that you are here now in this space and time, fully supported by this chair. And I am grateful. Whenever you're ready, gently invite your attention back to the PowerPoint. Trauma is a word that is misunderstood quite a bit. There's been a lot of popular press articles talking about snowflake students and all sorts of other things. But here's the research, and this is research in 2013. The research is saying that about 90% of the sample population of adults in this particular study, at least, had a traumatic event exposure. And while this sample had an overrepresentation of racial minorities and a non-probability method of sample selection and high PTSD prevalence, that doesn't mean that 9 out of 10 people you come across will have a traumatic event exposure. But what if it does? So the invitation here is to assume trauma is in the room with you. Perhaps you've experienced trauma. Perhaps I've experienced trauma. We just assume that trauma is in the room and invite in that gentle reverence for that. Not a walking on eggshell kind of reverence, but just a, this is a lived experience that is true for this person, and I will engage in an honoring of that experience. Yeah, compassion. The other research, and I didn't include this research in this presentation because at the time of the recording, I couldn't get a valid and reliable enough data point to share. But what we're also seeing is that witnessing of the trauma is creating trauma. So perhaps and that's included actually in this definition, that either this person, the 89.7% large sample of adults, had either experienced trauma directly or witnessed trauma being experienced on another, which created trauma. So I'm just asking you to take a moment now and notice what you're noticing after seeing this statistic, hearing this about this research. And inviting you again to notice that you're right here, right now, safely supported by your chair. Ground yourself. Press your feet into the floor, seat into the chair, back up against the chair. Perhaps press your hands together or on your thighs or wherever on your arms if they're crossed. And invite in a gentle breath. Maybe bring your hand to the belly, or you can bring some movement. You can stand up. Take a big inhale and stand up. Take a few steps, counting your steps with each inhale, counting the number of steps with each exhale. And offer yourself some compassion, the compassion practice that you've been practicing, your go-to compassion practice. And then whenever you're ready, come back to the presentation. You can pause here if you'd like, giving yourself self-compassion, and begin the video whenever you're ready. The idea is that what we want to do here is begin to co-create the container for being. And what we're doing as we flip around this working environment from one that some of my colleagues would call a colonized work environment to decolonizing that work environment. Some of my colleagues would refer to it that way. Others of my colleagues would say, we're just bringing humanity back in. Yeah, we're just bringing humanity back in. And so just like we did the beginning of this class, we co-created the container for how we wanted to be in this work together. And so the invitation, if you haven't already done this in your workplace, it's never too late to do this, is to invite in the co-creation of the container for being. And if you'd like to, there's a video of a way that you could do this back in the orientation part of this course. So you can go back, it's called Co-Creating the Container for Being. You can go back and play that or do that in whatever way you want to in your work environment. So the invitation here is to co-create the container for being in the work that you do in your work environment, in your workplace. Again, that's just one process that you can use. If you have other ideas, please post them to the discussion board so that we can all benefit. That would be great. I would love that. But this is another trauma-informed practice. And the reason that it is it allows people to actually talk about how they want to be in the work and bring their full selves there. Also knowing that all of us are again, we're all doing the best we can from where we are with what we have in the moment, knowing that that changes from moment to moment to moment to moment. Yeah? All right. The other way is something, yes, that you've also experienced. When we've come into our in-class practice, you got to choose the way that I greeted you. So just eye contact to greet you, to sort of send this message, I see you, to a high five, to a fist bump, to a handshake, to a bow, to a hug, or another way that you choose. And again, that has varied, right? Some days I might need a hug when I get into work. Some days I don't want anybody to touch me. I might have a cold. So just eye contact to see me. And some days I might be so wrapped up in what just happened before, I just like to almost move invisibly to my office to collect myself and then move out into the world. Right? So invite your colleagues to choose their greeting to each other. The another way we'll practice this, so those three we've already been practicing. This one we'll practice in our in-class practice, but it's inviting in sitting in a way that feels safe. And if you have a universal design space that you work in, this works really well. If you don't, they can create some challenges. They're very fixed furniture and fixed locations and all those sorts of things. But this is particularly important with one-on-ones that you might be having, or two-on-ones, or even meetings. I'm inviting people to sit in a way that feels safe. And again, we'll practice this in our time together. We'll also practice honoring survival skills. And this is a practice, I have, again, all these citations for where these are coming from. So many teachers of mine have contributed to all of this. It's and some of the practices overlap, but this is an invitation. Again, let's just do this one right now. This is an invitation to take your dominant hand and hold it up as tight as you can, like a fist. Just take that dominant hand, hold it as tight as you can. This is your survival. Your survival is dependent on keeping that fist closed. Okay, so take your dominant hand, hold it as tight as you can. Your survival is dependent on keeping that fist closed. Now just try to pry it open with your other hand, your non-dominant hand. Remember, your survival is dependent on keeping that fist closed. What are you noticing? Yeah. Okay, take a breath, shake out your hands. Now again, take your dominant hand, hold it up as tight as you can. Your survival is dependent on this. And with the other one, just gently, with your other hand, allow the fist to rest in it, to rest. It's like this hand, your other hand is saying, I got you, it's okay. Your survival skills are honored. You can go to them whenever you need to. What do you notice? Yes, we'll play with this some more in our in-class practice. So what we're doing is we're inviting an honoring of the survival skills. Not everyone can regulate all of the time. I can't, yes? And I've been practicing. My teachers can't, and they've been practicing much longer, much more skillful than I am. So the survival skills sometimes must come into play. How can we honor that and hold those in reverence? Here's something you've seen already before when we talked about self-compassion. This is from Paul Gilbert's work. So you notice the incentive, resource-seeking drive system, the threat and self-protection system, and then the soothing, caring, and content system. If you're in a contentious moment, you can choose your color. Or if you're in one of those crisis team meetings, something's got to happen, you've got to do some budget cuts, something went wrong, whatever. You can invite everybody to choose their color. Where are they coming from right now? Choose your color and then invite them, just give them permission to take care of what they need to take care of in order to come down more to a softening. If they're in this threat, self-protection, or the I gotta fix this. What do they need to soften, soothe, and care? Choose your color. This is another, based on a lot of people's work, that I like to use in the classroom, which is when we're learning and developing in new ways. You've perhaps experienced this in this class. We'll experience some challenges. And so sometimes when I'm learning something new, I move out of feeling safe. Like, whoa, this is really weird. I don't know about this. I don't know about this. When we're in that I'm challenged to learn and develop zone, it's like it's not in our safe and comfortable zone, like, oh, I'm bored, there's nothing new here. But I'm in my challenged and learn and develop zone, I can really grow. But when I push so hard, I start to feel unsafe, the amygdala hijacks, the prefrontal medial frontal brain, I'm starting to feel unsafe, I'm starting to feel wobbly. When I notice that, I can practice self-care and get myself back to the yellow zone. But sometimes I don't notice that. Things are happening quickly and all of a sudden I'm out, right? When you've checked out, that's the place to go seek professional help. If you're in the feeling unsafe zone and can't self-regulate back to challenged and learning and development place, that's also a place, a zone to seek professional help, right? And this is a way you can convey also to the colleagues that you work with. Just a way for them to self-monitor. So basically what we're saying here, something different that our society hasn't honored before is, hey, trauma exists. You don't need to self-disclose to me, but if you're noticing this, I'm here to honor where you are, okay, and support where you are. And then, of course, our wealth of compassion practices, self-compassion, compassion for others. This is particularly, let me go back to this. This is particularly important when there are deadlines and someone is in the I've checked out mode and you're like really depending on them to get something done. The compassion practice comes in super handy, like compassion for self and for other, to go, yeah, okay, am I going to walk this talk? Am I going to practice this practice? Or am I going to go back to pushing and shoving and the threat and the drive, right? Which isn't sustainable. And then the refer to professional services, and we'll talk more about how to do this in our in-person time. We have really, really fortunate at San Diego State. We have a lot of employee benefits that I invite us all to take advantage of if they're needed. There are particular ways to do that. Okay, so our practical takeaways assume there are people with trauma experiences in the room, either having specifically felt it or observed it. And trauma experiences are going to negatively impact learning and development. They're going to negatively impact our being able to meet the deadline. They're going to negatively impact our understanding of what's even being asked of us, all of that. So practices, grounding, speaking to what is, a practice that we've used earlier. This is what I noticed, SBNRR, a lot of what we've been practicing is leading us up to this. Co-creating the container so that the way of being honors this, that trauma may exist in the room. We don't have to psychologize, diagnose, none of that. You just assume it's here. Co-create the container, honor survival practices, compassion practices, and there's something else down here. Oh, and refer to a professional when important. All right, so questions, you know what to do. Your invitation here, connect with your buddy, post questions, comments on the course site, practice focused breathing daily, connect on that common humanity that just like me or just as me practice, self-compassion. Try out a trauma-informed practice if you'd like. And the 2-minute journal assignment and the weekly poem. All right, I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you again. Such a joy for me, such an honor for me to be here with you. Take care.